Hello BookTube, I'm Peg and welcome to my channel. I'd like to welcome the new subscribers that I've gotten recently. I think most of you saw my 25-point score sheet for judging books and decided that you'd read along in the Booker Prize with me or judge it, and I can't wait to get started on that. But unfortunately, I've fallen a little behind on that with some other reading, which I'm going to talk about today. I should warn you, incidentally, that my channel is kind of a bipolar channel. I do talk about books. It's my main thing, but I also talk about knitting and, in this case, crochet. But I always do that at the end, so if you're just interested in the books, you can turn it off when I get there. Okay, so today I'm counting the days down till I leave for Canada to go to Sean the Book Maniac's wedding, his wedding to the cute Kenji, a Japanese gentleman who I can't wait to meet. And I am just super excited about this trip to Canada. It's funny, I'm so excited I can hardly read, though I've been reading some lighter fare, whereas Sean, the groom-to-be, is relaxed. Look at him. He just did a great video where he's eating some candy. It's got to be the funniest thing I've seen on BookTube for a while. So be sure you check that out. And if some reason you don't know about Shaw, and I can't imagine, I'm putting a link below to his video where he gave me some hints on things to read about Saskatchewan, the province in Canada that he's from, and I'll be going to for the wedding. And I thought I'd report a little bit on the books that I have been reading instead of reading the Booker list. I've been reading some great books that I found on my own, and his suggestions about Saskatchewan. And I thought I'd kind of share those with you. Okay, the first one, he didn't tell me about this one, but I found this myself on Scrib, and it's called Saskatchewan Book of Musts, the 101 places every Saskatchewanian must see. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing because it's got some quirky places to see, but I'd like to run these down and see how many Sean and his friends there have been to. But it's fun to read, and it's got a special place. It's got the bigger cities are all mentioned separately, and there's a whole bunch on Saskatoon where I'll be going, where the wedding will take place, and I hope to scout out some of the places in it while I walk around. I'll have some free time in my hotels downtown, so I think I'll enjoy walking around and getting the ambiance of the place. Anyway, it didn't mention all the watering places in each city, so I'll bet Sean already knows all the watering places. What do you bet? Okay, so that's my first book, and let's see. This, as I said, I'm going to put his video link to it down below where he goes through most of these books. So I'm not going to go through them in detail. Just kind of show you why I'm reading this instead of the Booker. Okay, the first one is I'm actually reading two nonfiction books and loving them. The first one is by Sharon Butala, who has written a lot of books, both fiction and nonfiction. She seems to be the most published author from Saskatchewan, and I love her writing. This one, Wild Stone Heart, An Apprentice in the Fields, talks about when she moved to Saskatchewan, or she already lived in the north, but she moved into the south to marry a man who was a farmer there, and didn't really know much about it, but there was a field that had never been cultivated that she took to walking through the different seasons, and just found some amazing things. It had never been cultivated at all. So as she was walking, she began to see things like stones put in what she called teepee rings, and stones that arranged in a way that she called culturally modified. She found arrowheads, and some places where they looked like they had been making arrowheads, the flints were down, and then they saw the finished product would be out of the side. It was just really interesting. I've saved some of it to read when I get there, but it just really gave me a feeling of the land and the mystery of it and the history of it. Okay, the next book I found myself when Amazon put different suggestions up, and I'll tell you why I liked it. It's called Gone But Not Forgotten Tales of the Disappearing Grain Elevators. Now here's the grain elevator. If you've ever been in the Midwest, even in the U.S. much, you know that the grain elevator is a very common sight in small towns out on the prairie. And they're special meaning to me because I used to spend my summers with my grandparents who lived in Kansas, which is kind of below Saskatchewan. So, I mean, it still has that prairie feel, I think, and they were grain farmers. And I took many trips with my grandfather to the grain elevator to unload the grain, and they really remind me of those days. And this is a lot of interesting stories, actually, about true stories about grain elevators in Saskatchewan, and sometimes the manager of it would live there with his family, and this is just really a fascinating book. Okay, those are the two, nonfiction. Okay, here we go with some fiction. Gail Bowen is a mystery author that Sean recommended, and he said his mom really liked her, and I like her too. This is the first in a huge series. My library here has two of them, and I think they're probably pretty easy to get. They take place in Regina, which is, I believe, the capital of Saskatchewan, and again gives a lot of local flavor. And I'll tell you, this is a better mystery than a certain mystery that's on the Booker long list. Okay. Anyways, I do want to read more of hers. Maybe I can pick up some in the bookstores while I'm up there. Okay. The next one Sean also talked about, and quite a bit, and so I won't say much about it. It's called As For Me and My House. Can you see that? It's an old watercolor drawing of a prairie town, and Sean talks quite a bit about this. It deals with a minister and his wife who moved to town, and adultery goes on in the manse there. And I'll tell you, I started this, and it has the darkest tone of any book I've ever read. And there's also a short story that he talks about that people have read that has a very, I haven't read it yet, but I have that book too. So when you look at his, pay attention to this and the short story he talks about. Okay, let's see here. Oh, okay. Now here we go. Here's the Sharon Butala again, who wrote the nonfiction. Also wrote a true crime called The Girl in Saskatoon, which is where I'm going, about a murder that occurred many, many years ago. And it was a friend of hers when she was in high school, and she's quite old. I mean, it's got to have happened a really long time ago. And she goes through like a true crime, all the details of it. And evidently, it was never discovered who did the crime. But as I was looking through, I found a book she has just published this year. It's only in Kindle here in the States, called Zara's Dead, again by Sharon Butala. And just reading a little bit about it, the blurb, it's like, this is called a mystery. It's not called a true crime, but she takes the same story, and I think either she received some new information and the case was solved, or in the novel the case was solved. But I'm really anxious to read this probably on my way there. So don't tell me if it's which it is, if it's a the solving of the true crime or just a mystery novel that solves it. Okay, let's see what else I have here. Oh, one more. I have somebody else recommended this to me. It's called Juliet in August by Diane Warren. Now, Juliet is a town in Saskatchewan, and I've read a few of the stories, and they are very evocative of the land and of August. That's very hot there, which will be next weekend when I'm there. So as I said, I'm kind of reading all of these at the same time to get as much ambiance as I can. Okay, now we're on to the knitting and crochet part. Okay, so as many of you who've been around my channel know, I knitted a rainbow blanket for Sean and Kenji, the rainbow being a symbol of gay pride and other things. I've actually learned the different colors in the rainbow and what they stand for, so I need to practice on those. I won't go with those now. And I showed people, well, I went through the 10 different stripes, but you didn't ever see the back of it. And it's locked up now in my gift bag and will not be seen until Sean and Kenji open it. So I don't know whether to carry it on the airplane or put it in my luggage. It's pretty heavy. It turned out quite big. Okay, and the other needlecraft work I wanted to show you is my rainbow shawl. I had told you that I was crocheting, which is done with a hook. Now here's a picture of it from the back. It really is more showy from the back. And I told some people that I was going to have you vote on what color of the rainbow dress I should wear under it. I make my dresses so I could have any color I want. But I started making or thinking about the different colors, and I actually made one that I just love, and so I'm not going to let you vote. It's not orange and it's not turquoise, though these are t-shirts that I can also wear with it. So I'll be going on my to the rainbow wedding wearing my rainbow shawl, and I can't wait to see Sean and meet Kenji, meet Sean's friends and family, and see you soon, Sean and Kenji. Bye.